All right, so I guess the first thing I want to say is that while I submitted the nomination form to honor Dr. Lewis Wildman, several of our colleagues from the Department of Advanced Education Studies support and helped in putting together this nomination. Why did we nominate Dr. Wildman for the Faculty Hall of Fame? I think in terms of PK-12 educational leadership and education more broadly in Kern County, this guy's a legend. Before the pandemic, when I could get out in the community and talk with educational leaders, when I would mention my affiliation with CSUB, almost always folks would ask about Dr. Wildman. Then they'd tell me stories about him, and whether it was about how he would give an impromptu concert on the marimba, or about his ethic of care that was so evident in his mentoring and coaching of educators. If you know Dr. Wildman, then you know how deeply he cares about people. He's also a prolific scholar in the field of educational leadership, but he hasn't just published pieces for other scholars in the field. He has shared his expertise widely over the years with our community, for example, through editorials in the Bakersfield Californian. So we nominated Dr. Wildman for this award because his impact on our community has been profound. This is a better community for children and families because of his life's work here at CSUB. And I'm glad that the Faculty Hall of Fame committee agrees.
Well, thank you, Dr. Wisman, for such kind and generous remarks. As I was thinking about this, I was thinking about maybe some of the principles that I've tried to follow, a few thoughts about educational administration. First of all, I approach educational administration from a liberal arts perspective, not as narrow training. My focus has been on understanding rather than learning a set of rules and regulations and procedures, though those are certainly important. I look for a little broader perspective than that. I believe educational administrators should live what the schools they lead teach. For example, we teach the importance of regular physical exercise, and we therefore should, as administrators, practice that ourselves. Just as I'm against waste in natural resources, I'm also against waste in human resources. The great antidote, of course, to waste in human resources is education. While educating all is expensive, it is far more expensive not to make general education the norm for most everyone. Public schools are the foundation of our democracy, and a democracy requires an educated citizenry. Closely related to the goal of utilizing human resources is the concept of affirmative action, with the goal of attaining proportional representation. Among qualified candidates, the least represented candidate should be chosen. Over the years, I have sought to help schools become learning communities where there is a sharing of knowledge, where everyone is trying to learn, where there is enjoyment in learning, and where decisions are made on their merit rather than on their ownership. While schools are for students, they are also for teachers and administrators who spend their lives within these institutions. The way the public treats educators demonstrates the extent to which the public values education. Finally, I believe there are at least two paths for learning in most courses. One path involves students learning predetermined course objectives. The other path includes self-directed students and faculty pursuing their interest in the course. Educators have debated the merits of these two models of learning for centuries. One side is teacher-centered and based on the idea that learning occurs as a result of the transmission of knowledge from the teacher to student. The other side is student-centered and assumes that learning is a process of discovery by the student. The pendulum of practice has swung back and forth over the years between these two models. We want students to gradually take over more and more responsibility for their own learning. But if students don't have experience guiding their own learning, they are not suddenly going to become self-directed learners. For example, many students have taken private music lessons where the teacher told them what to practice for the following week's lesson. Unfortunately, once the lesson stopped, many students stopped playing their instrument because they had not gradually become self-directed learners. I believe there is good reason for both learning paths, and that the finest schools feature both. As Immanuel Kant said, quote, "Education partly teaches man something and partly develops something within him." Well, again, I want to thank Dr. Wisman for introducing me. I want to thank my colleagues in the Advanced Studies Department. And of course, I want to thank CSU Bakersfield for hiring me for over 30 years. I want to thank Dr. Wisman for being here and being able to do this for me. And I do appreciate it very much.
Dr. Wildman, likewise, it is an honor. You are a giant upon whose shoulders we stand in the Department of Advanced Education Studies. And without all your hard work that you've done over the past decades here at CSUB and in the broader community, we wouldn't have a leg to stand on. So we continue your work, your vision for equity-minded leadership for all, especially the marginalized and the underrepresented that you spoke about. And I want you to know that we are honored to have nominated you, and we thank you for all your dedication to this community over the years.
Well, thank you very much.
I also want to thank you guys on the Faculty Hall of Fame committee. We really appreciate you guys selecting Dr. Wildman for this.